first start is the exploratory part. We're going to look at where the pathway where sound goes. And in the ear, there's three parts. There's the outer part, the middle part, and the inner part. And the testing that you'll see will show us a little bit of information about the integrity of all those parts. You don't need to travel far than just your hometown in Fort Wayne. So if you're going to do good work, start where you're at. And in our private practice, we would see people that would come in that truly couldn't afford help. And so we wouldn't tell them no, but that usually meant trying to provide them with care that wasn't ideal.
I think Ken and I we're really good for each other. I got him into audiology, but it was Ken who really pushed to start our own private practice. We started our practice in 2000. We had 3 little kids, so it was already a juggle. And then come in 2008, and the economy just kind of tanked.
I think this is the most significant financial crisis in the post-war period.
Soaring gas prices, falling home prices, and rising unemployment.
What kind of recipe is that?
Overall, that's a recipe for a recession.
So difficult became extremely difficult. It wasn't just us that was struggling, it was patients that now could not afford hearing. And then we're thinking we should start a nonprofit.
Gee, honey, that's the greatest idea in the world. Let's start a nonprofit when our for-profit isn't even going very well. Between some tough conversations, we made the decision to start Hearing the Call.
It was founded in 2016 out of really seeing the need for people to have hearing treatment that couldn't afford it here in Fort Wayne, around the country, and around the world.
It helps me personally because it helps me connect with so many people.
We were invited by a hearing aid company to go to Mexico. We started out that day, we were a little nervous. We've never done that kind of work before. We don't speak Spanish. When we started fitting these kids with hearing devices, I mean, these are kids that are in bad straits, so they, virtually don't hear anything. And then in some respects, we're turning the light switch on. When they boom out in a big smile, we call it the hearing smile. And so both Nora and I were like, yeah, I could see us doing this for the rest of our lives. When we first started this, most of it economically was on our backs, and we're pretty limited, especially compared to the need that's out there. So we would take old hearing aids that were donated, then they all have their own software and programming cables, and just kind of go by the seat of our pants a little bit, just trying to make it work. All the places we go to have inherent challenges. Again, a lot of it's language and culture. I mean, just simple electricity. Sometimes we're running off, flashlights from iPhones. Sometimes we're running off generators. Sometimes we work in the darkness. It's a lot different than the cushy office that I get to work in every day.
The most overwhelmed I've ever felt was in Mozambique.
A group of Fort Wayne volunteers is in Africa this week to bring hearing health care to people in need.
It's called Hearing the Call, and the group began its 2-week mission trip in Mozambique.
I can't even tell you how many people were outside the hospital that we were working in. Over 1,000 people. The people never left, and it was just for the hope that the small chance that they might be seen. Some people waited there 3 days, and we couldn't get them in. And it's heartbreaking. And then you have to focus on the 200 that you were able to see. We come back every 6 months to a year, and then we clean and check their hearing aids and service them. And at the same time, we're training people on the ground, because the goal is that the people on the ground do it for themselves. We want to work our way out of the area within about 10 years.
I met Matt Hay because one of our hearing aid manufacturers met him and then called me saying, I just think I really want to introduce you to this guy.
Matt's a friend of mine. If you haven't heard about him, you probably will soon enough. He just released a book.
My sophomore year at Indiana University, I noticed I was having trouble hearing, which was new. By the end of the semester, I couldn't hear out of one ear completely at all. So at that point, I went to see an audiologist at the request of my parents because they were a little floored by how much trouble I was having with hearing. If sound becomes only a memory, like the entire concept of hearing things, if that just becomes something in my memory, what things do I want to remember? What sounds do I want to remember? What's the last sound you want to hear? And I found myself in that situation where one day my hearing just bottomed out. I came home and now married, and like my wife, we knew enough sign language and I could understand her well enough that she said, what do you want to do? Young love is pretty great. And at that point in my life, the thing that made me happier than anything was making my wife laugh. And so I thought, man, if I'm only going to hear one more thing, going out and having chips and guac and a couple pitchers of margaritas and making my wife laugh. And so that's what we did. And so I can really say the last sound I remember is her laughter at this Chicago street side Mexican restaurant. And I woke up the next day and my whole world was quiet. My audiologist saved my life because that tumor was diagnosed before it was doing any more damage, and I was able to eventually have those tumors removed. The reason I'm so fortunate to know Ken and Nora and the humanitarian work that they're doing with Hearing the Call is, there's a lot of people in the world that don't have the privilege and access to care that I did. They're taking that care to the communities that need it.
Every time he's talked, he said, eventually I'd love to get on one of the humanitarian trips. And so he did. And he helped out in the clinic, but he also spoke to some of our partners where they invited people in. And it was just a beautiful thing.
How can I take skills that I have developed and use those to help other people? And the work that Hearing the Call does here goes beyond just audiology.
Somebody, a big YouTuber in our industry, Dr. Cliff, had contacted me saying that somebody pretty famous was interested in potentially working with us.
I think most people my age don't even know who he is, right?
More YouTube subscribers than the White House, the United Nations, and Kanye West combined.
The most followed individual on YouTube.
A popular YouTuber, Jimmy Donaldson, who is also known as Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast. Jimmy Donaldson, better known online as Mr. Beast.
So he referred Mr. Beast to Hearing the Call.
Doing some research about who he is and where his heart is in terms of trying to give back, we thought that would be a good fit.
This is the first out of 1,000 deaf people that we're going to help hear again.
First, I thought 1,000 people. I said, okay, that's going to be a lot of work. And I thought we had the whole year to do it. And they said, no, we'd like to have this wrapped up at the end of March. I was like, in 30 days? And they were like, yeah, can you do that? And it just so happened that for the last 9 years, we were building a team and momentum and ability to get product to do exactly that. It was a absolute crazy 5 weeks, 40 to 50 audiologists that booked tickets to go from Mexico to Indonesia to Brazil, all over the world.
But they are only a few of the 1,000 people that we are going to help hear again today. We got our hands on over...
He says 1,000 people. What was the number, remember? Was it over 1,000?
Oh, it was over 1,000. We fit 969, but the rest, and it was over 1,000, were fit in
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
She hasn't heard properly for 67 years. 3, 2, 1. ¿Cómo se siente?
Bien.
Yeah.
¿Del oído bien?
How much different?
I totally remember.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've seen all of these people back for checkups just in October.
Guatemala, Brazil, and we also helped hundreds of people in South Africa, Malawi, and Indonesia.
We've been doing it for 10 years. We've seen a lot of hearing smiles. Jimmy Donaldson, I don't think was prepared for what he was going to see. I think it was more impactful and more dramatic than what he may have expected.
Well, today is Giving Tuesday, a global day of generosity, and one group is going above and beyond to help others, traveling the world to serve communities in need.
Hearing the Call, an Indiana-based nonprofit, recognized the need and arrived this
to think that an idea would catch fire and so many people would join in the effort. And it's really awesome to know that this work continues when we're not there.
On rare moments, I like to take a minute and just step back and step in the corner and just see all of my colleagues that are working, and they're just real heroes. And here they are being, shown and highlighted on a national TV show. It's just super cool.
Eventually, you're not going to see the people in the blue shirts anymore. You're just going to see the people that live in the country doing hearing health care for themselves. I guess I'm just amazed. I'm overwhelmed, and it's bigger than anything I dared to dream it would be.